Hello, welcome to the channel Why Stories. Enjoy watching.
Stray cat lay by garbage bin. Yesterday it got into unequal battle with dogs for dried sausage piece, and it lost. 3 of them, stronger. Cat barely crawled to bushes. Dogs thought all done with this bold gray, and then lost interest. They fought among themselves briefly. Finally, ran further along street, forgot about sad sausage piece. And a cat, breathing heavily, pressed tormented side to frozen ground, awaited end. No longer wanted to eat, wanted nothing. "Oh, kitty." Suddenly, child's voice. 6-year-old girl stood nearby, looked at unfortunate animal. Cat half opened one eye, closed it from pain. Another time, would have fled at sight of human, but now didn't care. Let them kick, hit, just wanted it all over. But girl sat nearby, cautiously ran frozen fingers through his fur. Dropped mitten somewhere, didn't matter. So fluffy. Little girl surprised. Beautiful. Why lying here? Freeze. Come with me. Cat didn't react to girl's words. She tried to lift him, cat suddenly yelled. Just yowled from pain. Girl flustered, ready to cry. Understood she hurt animal, didn't want to. Stay here, she said, looking at her fingers with cat blood. I'll call mom. Lisa was just finishing cleaning last landing when her daughter rushed in from street. Mom, there's a kitten. Seems really bad. And the girl extended her dirty hand. Oh God. Did you hurt yourself? Lisa exclaimed. Natalia, where did you run off again? Told you, play by the entrance while I work. I was nearby. Then saw kitten, it's by Ben's. Mom, its side is all bloody. Natalia said tearfully. It's not my blood, and I lost my mittens again. Lisa sighed, went after her daughter. Okay, she'll deal with mittens later. Should have sewn them to rubber band, like mom used to in childhood. But no time for everything. On one hand, she was glad to have such a responsive daughter, caring about others' troubles. But on the other, they already took in 2 cats Natalia brought home. Found lost dogs on her, spent half the summer nursing a dove's injured wing. Lisa understood her daughter simply dreamed of having a pet. But how could they have one when they themselves led a precarious existence in a semi-basement space? Lisa works as a janitor, and in the evenings, for extra money, she cleans the entrances. That's how they gave her this little storage room for living. Otherwise, she'd be out on the street. The cat still lay by the bin. Frost was settling, occasional snowflake falling. Early November, getting dark early. It's good that a nearby streetlight flickered on. Lisa sat down and carefully examined the animal. Yeah, Stray, you got a rough deal. She sighed. So, what should we do with you? Let's take it home, Natalia suggested. Yeah, home, Lisa smirked. And tomorrow, the building manager will come and kick us out with the cat. You know what Uncle Peter said, no animals in the basement. So, what, we're just going to abandon it? The girl was close to tears. Mom, that's not right either. You yourself said you shouldn't mistreat animals. Lisa thought, damn it, with this Uncle Peter. If he has no heart, doesn't mean she doesn't. She'll nurse the animal, then see what to do, find someone to take it in. Carefully, trying to cause as little suffering as possible to the animal, the young woman picked up the cat and carried it to her storage room. Natalia happily ran after. They stopped by the entrance of the old 5-story building. Lisa opened the door, and they descended the steps in complete darkness. They reached the battered door with sure steps. Keys jingled again, and they were home. The musty damp air hit their noses. Natalia turned on the light. The dim bulb illuminated their modest living space, a 12-square-meter room with an unfolded sofa, a writing desk, a wardrobe, a refrigerator showing its age in the corner, a kitchen table, and on it, a hot plate and a kettle. That's all the wealth. There was no bathroom here. Another room in the other side of the basement was equipped for that purpose. Lisa examined the cat again. The animal was either quiet from warmth or the injury, but the cat was breathing. Without any trouble, the woman treated the wound, put the cat in a biscuit box, and got busy with household chores. "Don't touch the kitty, let it gather strength," she explained to her daughter. "Should we feed it?" Natalia eagerly opened the refrigerator and reached for a bottle of milk. "It's not in the mood for food right now," Lisa sighed. "Let it sleep." The daughter nodded seriously in response. And during the night, Lisa racked her brain over what to do now. The cat clearly needed a veterinarian's help, but she didn't have money for that. She had saved up for Natalia's winter boots. She barely made ends meet. She had found a good pair on sale. Still expensive, but she wanted to make her daughter happy. And the cat didn't have much time left. Should she throw it out? She would never do that. How would she look her daughter in the eyes later? Yes, she felt sorry for the little cat. Lisa decided that she would take a few more cleaning jobs, and in a couple of weeks, she'd save up enough for Natalia's shoes again. Right now, she needed to treat this fluffy gray wonder. Natalia had already come up with a name for it, Biscuit. The girl could already read, and it was written right on the cardboard box, Chocolate Biscuit. She brought the box herself from the store, empty, of course. Natalia was a resourceful child. She knew that you could store a lot in such a box. Clearly, it wouldn't go to waste. And indeed, it came in handy. In the morning, Lisa took Natalia to the daycare and set off with Biscuit to the nearest veterinary clinic. Luckily, it was close by. The cat was very weak, barely moving. It would occasionally let out a plaintive meow and shiver all over its furry body. "It's a serious case," the doctor said after the examination. "We need to perform surgery. Then your cat will have to stay with us for a couple of days." "Why didn't you come earlier? And what happened to it anyway?" "I don't know," Lisa admitted. "My daughter found it yesterday evening almost in the same condition, and it got worse overnight." "A stray, I assume?" The veterinarian sighed. Lisa nodded in response. "Doctor, how much will this cost?" she timidly asked. "I only have 50. "All right, we'll figure something out," the man replied and looked closely at Lisa. "And I think I've seen you somewhere." "Yes, I've seen you too," Lisa remembered the man. "I clean the entrances in your building, the 9-story one on St. Nicholas Street." "Exactly," exclaimed the vet, then looked at the cat. "Well, I will talk to the management. We'll perform the surgery and you can keep your money." Lisa smiled gratefully and, stroking Biscuit, slipped behind the door while the veterinarian kept looking at it. Yes, he remembered this woman. He remembered how she regularly climbed the stairs in their building with a heavy bucket and mop, scrubbing the landings, then the stairs themselves. She was so slender, and her eyes, Maximiliano remembered her eyes, huge, gray, and very sad. He always wondered what made this woman do such dirty work. Clearly, she wasn't unintelligent. Something must have happened in her life. And as Lisa left the clinic, she felt elated. What a good start to the day. They would help Biscuit, and she managed to save money. Yes, in recent years, every penny counted for her. Could she have imagined 10 years ago that she would be living like this? Lisa grew up in a military family. Her father was often transferred from one unit to another, and she and her mother always followed him. Lisa changed a dozen schools, lived in military towns. Despite the frequent moves, she studied well and dreamed of becoming a journalist. But most of her dreams were about military journalism. Her mother, a simple librarian, just smiled anxiously. She gave birth to a daughter, rejoiced that she wouldn't follow in her father's footsteps. And she, Lisa, did just that. Her father didn't like the idea at all. Not only was journalism an unpredictable profession, but it was also related to the military. No, he'd rather have his daughter become a teacher or a doctor. At least, an accountant. But Lisa still went to study journalism after school. Admittedly, as a paying student, she couldn't quite make it into the state-funded program. Her father was annoyed, but he agreed to pay for her education. If his daughter made that decision, he should respect her choice. That meant she had character. And then he left on a work trip and never returned. Her mother, upon learning this, fell ill immediately. Lisa even had to arrange her father's funeral. The military, for her father's job, of course, helped, and after 6 months, her mother was gone as well. She was left all alone in the world. Her parents had relatives, but they were only willing to help Lisa in words. It turned out that the apartment they had been living in for the last 3 years was still owned by the military. Lisa's father had the opportunity to transfer it to his name, but with his constant deployments, he never managed to do so. Lisa was asked to leave. She managed to get a place in a dormitory, but then another problem arose. She had no money to pay for her education. Well, her father had saved a bit of money, but most of it had gone towards her mother's medical treatment. And it hadn't helped. Lisa took a job as a waitress in a night bar. She worked nights and studied during the day. Understandably, after sleepless nights, her head felt like lead. She quickly went from being a successful student to barely passing, but she persisted. Then they raised the tuition fees, which became too much for Lisa. She was called to the dean's office. "We understand that there are various situations," the dean said indifferently, "but you are studying on a paid basis?" "Yes," Lisa nodded. "I'll try to find the money." "Find it." But where were those money hidden? Lisa couldn't gather the required amount, and she was expelled for non-payment in her 3rd year, and then she was kicked out of the dormitory. A friend from college took her in. That's how she lived for another 6 months. Not quitting her job, she had to live on something. And she still cherished the thought that she might one day be able to return to college. One night at the bar, she met a nice young man. He seemed very decent to her. Daniel would come to the nightclub once a week and sit in the corner, sipping on a cocktail. One day, he struck up a conversation with Lisa, offered to walk her home after work, and everything started from there. Lisa was happy her black streak was finally over. But as it turned out, everything was just beginning. Lisa moved into a 1-bedroom apartment with Daniel. He was a graduate of an orphanage, so he had his own place. Lisa could never quite figure out where he worked. Daniel would just laugh it off. Over time, she began to realize that it was something illegal and started demanding that he quit. But he would just make jokes again. "I'm a secret agent, Lisa," Daniel would laugh. "Almost like James Bond." "Daniel, I'm serious." "Well, if you're serious, Lisa, you don't need to know about it." And his words left Lisa so uneasy, a silly foreboding feeling. Several months later, Daniel died. And only then did Lisa learn everything for sure from the police. His friends got rid of him. They didn't agree on something. The apartment, which was part of social housing, was taken back by the government to eventually give it to another orphan, and Lisa had to urgently find housing. At first, a colleague, Kate, a waitress from the nightclub, took her in, but then she became jealous of Lisa in regard to her boyfriend. And without any reason. And it was useless to prove anything. She kicked Lisa out. Luckily, Lisa found a cheap apartment. But Kate couldn't stop herself and continued to seek revenge against her. One night at the nightclub, an unpleasant incident occurred among the staff. The manager's wallet went missing. It was found among Lisa's belongings. She cried, insisting it wasn't hers, but no one believed her. She was fired without even getting paid for a month of work. And Kate was smiling so wickedly, looking at Lisa, a nasty smile. Lisa understood that Kate had orchestrated it all, but she couldn't prove anything. Distraught, Lisa collapsed on the street and ended up in the hospital, where she found out that she was pregnant. "I don't want this child," Lisa cried. "I can't even support myself." "Still, think about it," the doctor advised her. "Don't rush, you still have time." Lisa promised to think about it, but she was determined. And on the morning when she was supposed to be admitted to the hospital, a strange incident occurred. Lisa was standing at a pedestrian crossing, waiting for the green light. Suddenly, a 3-year-old boy who was standing behind her with his mother broke free and ran onto the road. His ball fell out of his hands and rolled under the cars, and the boy rushed to save it. At the last moment, Lisa caught the child. "Oh, my poor sweetie," the frightened mother cried, hugging her child, who didn't even understand what was happening. "Señorita, God bless you." Lisa just smiled, gently patted the boy, and went on her way. The closer she got to the clinic, the more vividly the image of the boy appeared before her eyes, his eyes full of incomprehension. Why is his mom crying? His little fingers tightly gripping her when she pulled him away from the edge of the road, his soft silky hair. Lisa even felt like she remembered his scent. Did he smell like caramel? And she also remembered the mother's eyes, who, for a moment, thought she might lose her child. There was universal horror in her eyes, horror of losing the most precious thing in life. Lisa slowed down. And is she really walking so calmly, intending to terminate the pregnancy? This thought scalded her like boiling water and froze like ice in her heart. She would never do that. Then Lisa turned around and left. She realized that there would be many difficulties ahead, but she was healthy, young, she could handle it. And the trials continued to rain down on her like an abundance from a horn of plenty. First, the faucet in her bathroom burst. Lisa had just gone for another job interview. An unsuccessful one, by the way. And when she returned, a locksmith was already opening the door to her apartment with the neighbors from below. She had flooded them. The landlady who arrived immediately asked her to leave. Lisa decided that in this case, it would be the best option because the flooded neighbors were furious and demanding compensation for the upcoming repairs. And Lisa had no money and nowhere to go. Despair once again gripped her heart. She regretted turning away from the clinic. What should she do? She decided to spend the night at the train station and then try to call acquaintances. Maybe someone would help. An old lady, Doña Duran, as she introduced herself, sat down next to her in the waiting hall. The elderly woman was traveling to the northern part of the country. "I came to visit my sister. I'd stay longer, but I need to get back. Look at me, I've lived to old age," the old woman sighed, "worked my whole life, 40 years of experience, and now I only receive 600. Oh, that's why I keep working." "What do you do for work?" "I'm a janitor. The job is quite heavy for my age, of course, but my health is still holding up. I've been asking the management for a partner, but not many people want to become janitors." "I would do it," Lisa blurted out suddenly, "if I only had a place to live." And somehow, she ended up telling the old woman her story. Doña Duran listened attentively, sighed, and nodded her head. "You know, young lady," she said when Lisa finished, "I don't usually trust the first person I meet, but you, I can see you're a good person. There's one option. In our building, there's a storage room for the janitor, but there's no janitor assigned to this area. So, if you're really willing, let's go together. I'll have a word with my boss for you. He's a difficult man but understanding. I think he'll take you in. Just don't mention your pregnancy, and when he sees you, where else can he put you?" Lisa was a bit puzzled by Doña Duran's last words, but it was honest. Where else could she go? And it was a real option. The important thing was that there was housing available. So, Lisa went from the central part of the country to the northern region. Surprisingly, the head of the housing complex, Señor Gallego, was happy to accept a new employee. Doña Duran even introduced her as her distant relative. Lisa started living in that storage room in the basement. In the morning, she went to work, and in the evening, she gradually arranged her living space. Doña Duran gave her a fridge, a wardrobe, and a sofa. Of course, her growing belly soon became noticeable. Oh, and Señor Gallego scolded her. "Are you an idiot or what?" he yelled at Lisa. "Pregnant and carrying heavy things, shoveling snow. What are you thinking, and how are you portraying me? Am I some kind of monster?" "Señor Gallego, I have no other choice," Lisa confessed to him. "I have nowhere to live, and I don't have money for housing. Where can I go right now? And nobody's kicking you away. No, seriously, do you really think I'm a monster? You'll work in the office until your due date. You seem like a smart girl, and I need someone to properly compile documents for the prosecutor's office for the administration. Like a secretary? Yes, I'll hire you as a secretary. And housing? You can stay where you are. I'll divide your territory between the other janitors. In general, we'll manage, and then we'll figure something else out. Lisa moved to the office, and later her daughter was born. Doña Duran helped her a lot with little Natalia. I would have taken you in, dear, she confessed, but I live with my son now. He drinks like a fish. His wife kicked him out, so he moved in with me. But where else could I put him? He's my son. Lisa understood all of this and didn't take offense at all. She was grateful for the help. But then a tragedy occurred. The old woman passed away. And 6 months later, Senor Gallego fell ill and left his job. The new management became very interested in the issue. Why is a janitor's housing occupied by a person who has other responsibilities? Even Senor Gallego's request not to touch Lisa didn't help. Either you start doing the work you were originally hired for, or vacate the premises. The management presented Lisa with an ultimatum. With no other option, Lisa returned to the streets to sweep. Natalia was only 3 years old at that time, and when she grew a bit more, Lisa found another part-time job cleaning hallways. It became a little easier with the money, but Lisa was terribly tired. But she saw no other way, and where was that way? Who needed her? Natalia was growing into a smart and clever girl, and a very kind one. She felt sorry for every animal. Lisa supported her daughter. She believed in helping those who were worse off in life. But then, the new building manager, Senor Peter Hidalgo, was a staunch opponent of any animals. If he somehow tolerated domestic cats and dogs, he drove all the homeless ones away. When he saw Natalia rescuing a poor kitten once again, he scolded Lisa for it. He threatened to evict both her and her daughter from the room. So, they secretly helped unfortunate animals. And then came Biscuit. Lisa was puzzling over what to do with him after the surgery. She decided that he would stay with them for a little while after the operation, recover, and then let him go out to continue his stray life. With these thoughts in mind, she came to pick him up from the clinic. Maximiliano, the veterinarian, happened to be on duty at that time. Seeing Lisa, he didn't understand why he was so pleased. He liked this woman. Just in a human way. He explained how to continue treating the cat, reassured her that everything would be fine now. The cat had been watching the people cautiously all this time. In general, he hadn't been trusting people lately. The streets had taught him that. But he definitely liked these two. He shifted his gaze between the woman and the man, occasionally yawning. Well, Biscuit, let's go home. Lisa smiled and opened her old backpack. Instead of using a carrier, she decided to use the backpack. The cat looked at the woman, then at the backpack, with surprise. She was calling him by some strange name. Wait! Suddenly exclaimed Maximiliano. I have a carrier bag. One woman left it. Her old cat is gone, so she brought this bag to the clinic. She said it might come in handy for someone. Oh, it's kind of awkward, Lisa blushed. You've already treated the cat for free. It's awkward to sit in a backpack, right, Biscuit? Maximiliano laughed. Take it, it's not up for discussion. To everyone's surprise, the cat willingly went into the carrier. He seemed to enjoy being in the little house. Oh, how happy Natalia was when she saw the cat in the room. She had thought her mother was lying to her, hiding the truth about the cat. But they really did nurse him back to health. Mommy, is he going to live with us now? The girl looked into her mother's eyes, petting the cat. Biscuit, too, was cautiously looking at Lisa. We'll see, Lisa answered uncertainly. Biscuit turned out to be very intelligent. He quickly settled into the new place. When his side healed, Lisa and her daughter gave him a bath. The cat was in bliss. It was clear that all this was familiar to him from his previous life. But why did this huge fluffy cat end up on the streets? Who could have abandoned such a beauty? He was also very grateful. He got used to catching mice in the basement and bringing them to the room's door. It was like a report, proving that he didn't eat the food just for nothing. He skillfully avoided the building manager. He seemed to understand that he shouldn't put his owners in a bad situation. But one day, Señor Hidalgo finally saw him. He was ruthless, entered the room without knocking. Natalia forgot to close the door. And there, Señor Hidalgo saw a huge cat sleeping on the couch next to the girl. Half asleep, the child didn't understand why Biscuit suddenly rushed under the table. And Señor Hidalgo, slamming the door, was already running to Lisa, who was clearing the snow path near the neighboring entrance. "Listen here, today you get rid of your cat," this nasty Señor Hidalgo shouted. "Just wait and see. I'll report you to the management right now for creating unsanitary conditions." And he walked away, waving his hands nervously. Lisa was about to run after him to plead and beg, but she stopped herself because she realized it would be useless. And the complaint of this Señor Hidalgo didn't go unnoticed by the building management. On the same evening, they called Lisa and told her to vacate the storage room. "But where will I go?" Lisa pleaded. "It's winter outside, and I have a child." "That's not our concern," the manager said. "This room is not suitable for residential purposes. As if I needed to get fined because of you. Everything has been fine for so many years, and now suddenly inspections." Lisa doubted. "Are you defying me now?" The manager got angry. "Listen here, I'll give you a week to sort everything out. And by the way, I'm hiring someone else for the job. I need some muscle power on this block. It doesn't matter that you're struggling there. You leave so much garbage and dirt, the residents are complaining." And that's how Lisa felt offended, because it wasn't true. But the manager didn't want to listen. Later, she learned that he hired immigrants for the job. He could pay them less and gave them the same room. Meanwhile, Lisa was desperately searching for new housing. Everything was so expensive. Eventually, she found a small room in a remote area and started packing her things. Natalia was packing her toys. "Mom, but we won't leave Biscuit, right?" the daughter asked. "Where would we go without him?" Lisa sighed. "Of course, we'll take him." That evening, she went to clean the entrances one last time. She wouldn't be coming here anymore. It was a pity to lose the extra income, but what could she do now? Lost in her sad thoughts, Lisa was cleaning the staircase, occasionally sobbing. "Lisa, hello." Suddenly, she heard a man's voice. Next to her stood Maximiliano. "Doctor, hello." Lisa replied quietly and lowered her gaze, trying to hold back tears. "Is something wrong?" Maximiliano looked closely at the young woman. "No, everything's fine." She shook her head and burst into tears. "All right, put down your rag," Maximiliano commanded. "Come on, let's go to my place." "You need to calm down." Lisa obediently followed him. In the two-room apartment's kitchen, they had coffee. Gradually, Lisa calmed down and told Maximiliano her sad story. "So, that's how I'm living," she sighed at the end. "Ever since my parents passed away, my life has been a struggle, and I can't seem to catch a break. You know, it's frustrating. I'm trying to live honestly, raising my daughter alone, but nothing goes smoothly. Well, I'm sorry, please forgive me. I'll go back, I still need to finish cleaning." "Lisa, wait." Maximiliano grabbed Lisa's hand and was a bit surprised at himself. "I've had this thought. I've been living alone for many years now. My wife died in a car accident a month after our wedding. My mother is around, but she has her own life. I'm at work all day, but I wish I could come home to the smell of soup or grilled chicken. I want to have a cozy home, where things aren't scattered around and the washing machine isn't only used on Sundays. I long for comfort. Lisa, I want to make you an offer to become my housekeeper. I'll pay you and your daughter can live in a separate room. I won't take a single penny from you for it." "This is unexpected," Lisa muttered. "But think about it, It's better than living in the basement or in that room you're planning to rent. You said it yourself, it's infested with cockroaches. Don't think anything bad about me. I'm completely normal and not a nag. I just live alone. And you know how tired I am of this. In the evenings, I don't even have anyone to talk to. I save other people's pets, and here I am. It's ironic. I thought about getting a cat or a dog, but I'm always at work. I won't be able to take care of them properly. Maximiliano looked at Lisa with a questioning gaze. She didn't know how to respond. On one hand, it was an absurd proposition, living in an apartment with an unfamiliar man. But on the other hand, she really didn't know who her neighbors would be in that small room on the outskirts of the city. What if it's some alcoholic or crazy person? And yes, Natalia wouldn't have to change daycare, and she'd be going to a good school nearby soon. Well, of course, it's somewhat reckless on my part, Lisa finally mustered. But I agree. Although, it's not just the two of us. How many then? Maximiliano was surprised. 3. With the cat. After all, you saved him. Well, yes, Biscuit, it seems. That's great. Now I'll have a pet in my apartment. That same evening, Maximiliano helped Lisa move her things. Natalia was thrilled with the new room and the apartment. Essentially, the child was experiencing decent living conditions for the first time. Biscuit swaggered around the apartment, sniffing all the corners. He understood that this was his territory, sprawled in the middle of the room, and purred contentedly. Well, it seems we've settled. Maximiliano smiled. Lisa looked at him gratefully. Hope unexpectedly entered her life that everything would now get better. The next morning, Lisa took Natalia to daycare and began cleaning the apartment. While Maximiliano was neat, it was still evident that a bachelor lived in the house, clothes on a chair, dust on the chandelier. Lisa enjoyed tidying up. She even hummed something. She remembered how she used to live, how she and her mom did a thorough cleaning for holidays, how her dad would beat the carpets in the snow for the new year. The memory of the latter gave her an idea. She should take the carpet in the living room outside and shake it. The vacuum cleaner can do its job, but a bit of fresh air would be nice. Without much thought, she rolled up the carpet and dragged it to the hallway. Fortunately, it wasn't heavy at all. And then, the front door opened. On the threshold stood a woman in her 60s. Bright makeup and fiery red hair that clashed didn't suit her well, but apparently, she saw things differently. She was dressed in a short winter coat, almost like a teenager. Lisa even smiled to herself. Maximiliano had warned that his mother sometimes comes over. Could this be her? Who are you? The woman asked first, inspecting the slender, pretty girl with the carpet in her hands. She herself had given her son this carpet. And the carpet from the living room. Did you just climb in here without permission? And the woman stepped back and pulled out her phone to call the police. No, that's not what it looks like. Lisa exclaimed. I'm the housekeeper. Maximiliano hired me for work. I wanted to shake the carpet outside. Call him and ask. I really am the housekeeper. Senora Paula Morales raised her eyebrows. A housekeeper? Has her son completely lost his mind? He doesn't earn enough to waste money on servants. Did he decide to play rich or something? Sonny, who's the girl in your apartment? She asked Maximiliano, not particularly concerned whether he was currently busy or not. Hearing the answer, she snorted. Maximiliano, you're being irrational. You don't earn millions. But Maximiliano didn't argue with his mother. Claiming he was busy, he turned off his phone. Senora Morales stared at Lisa, who was still standing in the hallway. Why are you standing there? Go on, clean the carpet, Senora Morales commanded. And suddenly, she started feeling good. How pleasant it was to command someone. Senora Morales was a domineering woman. Her first husband, Maximiliano's father, fled from her a year after their wedding. He helped his son but didn't want to see his wife anymore. She had a heavy character, everything had to go her way. Later, she got married 2 more times and ended up kicking her men out herself. They weren't turning out to be what she had hoped for. What kind of man she needed, she herself didn't know. In general, she poured all her love and care onto her son, so much so that he ran away from her right after school. He studied to become a veterinarian, even though his mom had always dreamed that Maximiliano would become a lawyer. Then he married someone completely unsuitable. It's sinful to say, but Paula sighed with relief when Martina died a month after their wedding. Well, she wasn't the right match for Maximiliano. Paula had long found a suitable girl for him, the daughter of her best friend Anna. She had it all planned out. Marina was Jewish on her father's side and was planning to immigrate to Israel. Maximiliano would have married her and gone with her. And then Paula could have taken him back. But Maximiliano ran away from the bride she'd imposed on him right on the night of their meeting, which disappointed his mother, her friend, and that very Martina. Later, he bought this apartment on a mortgage. So why wouldn't he return to his mother's apartment? He wanted to be independent, but now he had a housekeeper. Paula watched out of the window as Lisa rubbed the carpet with snow and then beat it. She seemed to be working quite well, energetically. Paula decided to see what else this girl had done in the apartment and opened the door to the room. Sonora Morales froze in place. There was a huge gray cat lying on the couch, a pile of soft toys in the corner, a woman's bathrobe hanging on the chair. What is this? Who lives here? Sonora Morales tried to call her son, but he didn't pick up. The gray cat stretched, opened its left eye, and warily stared at the red-haired woman. Then it arched its back and hissed. "Oh, you villain!" Sonora Morales exclaimed. "In my son's apartment. Ugh, and some sorts of nastiness will even hiss at me. Come on, get out of here." She grabbed a broom and lunged at Biscuit. He didn't wait around and swiftly darted under the couch. Sonora Morales tried to drive him out from his hiding place, energetically moving the broom under the couch. Biscuit, however, only growled menacingly. Lisa came upon such a scene. This red-haired woman was crawling upside down by the couch, swearing like a shoemaker, while the cat from its hiding place pretended to be a lion. "I'm sorry," Lisa murmured. "Can I help you?" Sonora Morales, panting and cursing, got up. "What have you done here, you wretch? Did you move in or something? And you brought this disgusting creature with you too?" "I'm sorry, but Maximiliano offered us, my daughter and me." "Oh, she even has a daughter. You shameless thing, did you decide to ensnare my son? To burden him with someone else's child? This won't happen. Quickly gather your belongings and leave the apartment. And take that cat with you, I can barely breathe." As confirmation, the woman sneezed loudly. "Bless you," Lisa said, "but I can't leave right now. Maximiliano hired me, not you. I don't even know your name. You don't need to know my name." How audacious of her. She's barged into the house and won't be kicked out. No one knows how long Sonora Morales would have continued yelling if Maximiliano hadn't arrived suddenly. He sensed that his mother would definitely cause a scene. "Here's the deal, Mom," he said sternly, ignoring Sonora Morales' ranting. "I'm a grown man and I'll decide how I want to live and with whom. I'm always happy to see you, but I ask that you not interfere in my life. I've decided that Lisa and her daughter will live with me, that's how it's going to be. And this cat will live here too. Always as stubborn as a ram." Paula grumbled. Just like his father. He was always playing Don Quixote, fighting for justice, but he ended up a fool, achieving nothing. "Son, do you want a similar fate? You should listen to your mother." "I've heard enough from you already," Maximiliano replied curtly. "I'm sorry, but I need to get back to work. Just dropped by for a few minutes." "Are you leaving?" Sonora Morales realized that her dear son was standing up to her. With some dissatisfaction, she mumbled something and left. Maximiliano winked at Lisa and also left the apartment. Lisa and Biscuit sat on the couch, bewildered. "Quite the conversation we had." Lisa smiled, addressing the cat. He meowed something in response. In the evening, after Natalia fell asleep, Lisa and Maximiliano continued talking for a long time. They sat at the kitchen table. The coffee had long gone cold, but Maximiliano kept talking and talking. And Lisa realized that the world had not been kind to her alone. Maximiliano truly loved his wife Martina. They met in university and got married after graduating. Maximiliano's mother was against it. Of course. Marina was the best match in her eyes. She didn't even come to their wedding. The young couple rented an apartment and lived happily. Maximiliano dreamed of a large and close-knit family, 2 or 3 children, their own house, a car. They even wanted to open their own veterinary clinic once they saved up a bit. Not a day went by without Senora Morales trying to interfere in their family life. She would call in the middle of the night, pretending she was feeling ill and that these were her last moments. And Maximiliano would rush to her, though he already understood that it was all a show. And sometimes she would show up at their place on a day off, even at 7 in the morning, and start scolding Martina for not having prepared breakfast for her husband or for there being dust on the windowsills. Maximiliano would try to defend his wife from his mother's attacks, but he couldn't argue with her because she still was his mother. And when Martina passed away, Senora Morales, literally the day after the funeral, tried to drag her son to a restaurant for Marina's birthday. They had a big argument then, and Maximiliano didn't communicate with his mother for over half a year. He almost turned to drinking to cope with his grief, barely holding himself together. But then he distanced himself, forgave his mother, and even gave her a spare key to his apartment, just in case. I understand, she loves me, but it's a strange kind of love, and I can't do anything about it, Maximiliano admitted. For some reason, she thinks that since she raised me, she now has the full right to meddle in my life and make decisions for me. She didn't even tell me when my father passed away, even though we had been communicating all these years. He was a good man, but he left the family because of my mother's character. And she didn't even let us say goodbye. That's the kind of mother I have. It's hard for me to understand, Lisa sighed. My parents loved me very much and always gave me the right to choose. Though we didn't save much money all these years, I don't blame them, it just turned out that way. Lisa, don't worry, things will work out for you eventually. Maximiliano, I've been thinking. Your mother might be right, you're not a millionaire, so it's not necessary to hire a housekeeper. I won't ask for payment, I'll do all the housework in exchange for being able to stay here. This is already too much. Lisa, don't talk nonsense. The fact that you and your daughter are living with me brings me joy, I've already mentioned that. But every labor should be compensated. Not paying you? How do you plan to raise Natalia then? But I also clean the hallways. I said I'll pay. Thank you, the girl smiled sadly. Maximiliano looked closely at Lisa, sighed, and then said, You know, sometimes you remind me of Martina. No, don't get me wrong, you look completely different on the outside. Martina had dark eyes and hair. You have gray eyes and brown hair. But in your conversations, your behavior. I remember when you brought Biscuit to the clinic, how worried you were about the animal, how anxiously you looked at him. Martina also loved animals a lot, although in our profession, it's hard not to. You also prop your chin on your hand the same way when you listened. Martina used to do that too. It must be painful for you to remember your wife? Maybe I unconsciously remind you of her? I'm sorry, maybe we should move out with Natalia. No, it's not about that. I wanted to say that I feel good with you. Even just sitting here in silence, drinking cold coffee. They looked at each other, and both awkwardly averted their gaze. No, this was going too far, such confessions were unnecessary. They were just living under the same roof, and at night, Lisa couldn't stop thinking about Maximiliano. He was a good person, and he was also unhappy. And then she mentally scolded herself. They were very different, and each of them had their own fate. And Lisa needed to focus on her daughter first. After all, who needs someone else's child? Yes, no one. Lisa never quit her part-time job. she continued cleaning the hallways. Until one day, Maximiliano scolded her. How much longer did she intend to lug those buckets and mops around? Did he not pay her enough? Maximiliano, you pay me well, but I have to understand that it will eventually end, Lisa responded to his complaints. And I can't just suddenly be without work. Lisa, when will you understand? Maximiliano shouted. I want you and Natalia to live with me always. I want us to be a family. Are you joking? Turning pale, Lisa whispered. Do I look like I'm joking? Maximiliano got angry. Lisa, I think about you every minute. I fall asleep, and your face is before my eyes. No, you're mistaken, Lisa said with pain in her voice. You yourself said I remind you of Martina. That's all. Yes, I loved Martina, I won't deny that, but I can't bring her back, it's all in the past. And you're here. Yes, you remind me of her in some ways, but you're different. I've never met anyone like you. Like who? Like someone who's truly dear to me, and Maximiliano hugged Lisa. She flinched, but she didn't pull away. Over all these years, there had only been one man for her, Daniel, but he was in the past too. Did she truly love him? No, it was infatuation. Daniel was her daughter's father, that's all. And he couldn't be brought back. The woman looked into the man's eyes. You won't betray me, will you? She asked softly. Never, my girl. And then they lay down, embraced, on the couch in the living room under a fluffy blanket. It was dark, the alarm clock was ticking peacefully. Natalia had long been asleep in the adjacent room, Biscuit was snoring at her feet. And for the first time in life, it felt so good. They celebrated New Year together. Lisa prepared a lot of delicious food. Maximiliano and Natalia decorated the Christmas tree, securing it properly because Biscuit was constantly testing its stability. But his efforts were in vain, the tree stood firm. Maximiliano had put in a lot of effort, he even tied it to the radiator. Lisa laughed that they should have nailed it to the ceiling. But they decided it was unnecessary. Several times during the evening, Senora Morales called Maximiliano. She didn't know about her son's relationship with his housekeeper and was deeply saddened that her son would be spending New Year's alone. Maximiliano decided not to tell her anything for now, as he knew that otherwise, his mother would do something to spoil their evening. I'm going to Anna's, Senora Morales said. Marina is there with her. Oh, Maximiliano, she's turned into such a beauty. Who? Anna? Maximiliano joked, pretending not to understand his mother's hints. No, Marina. And she's so clever. She's returned home now. Their company's office is in our city, you know? And Marina is in charge there. Mom, I really want to sleep, Maximiliano theatrically yawned. I just want to get some rest on New Year's night. I'm on duty tomorrow, you understand? And that's how you'll sleep your whole life away. His mother scolded. And then she remembered. Listen, where is your housekeeper today? She went to her aunt's village, Maximiliano lied. Well, she should have stayed there then, Senora Morales grumbled. Fine, whatever you want. But if you change your mind, know that I'm with Anna. Maximiliano solemnly promised not to forget that and finally hung up. Lisa had been there the whole time. Your mother will find out about us anyway, she said sadly. I'm already terrified to think about her reaction. Don't worry about that. Believe me, I won't let anything harm you. I've learned my lesson. And Maximiliano hugged Lisa tightly. Natalia crawled onto his lap. She had grown quite attached to him during this time. The little girl hugged them both. Mommy, does Santa grant all wishes? She suddenly asked. Of course, Lisa smiled, thinking that the skis Natalia had wished for were already in the storage room. The New Year's wizard would definitely fulfill her wish. Soon you'll be skiing with Uncle Maximiliano. No, I'm not talking about skiing. I know it was you who bought them for me. I saw you putting them in the storage room." The girl waved it off and looked seriously at Maximiliano and Lisa again. "Natalia, you can't hide anything from you." Lisa laughed. "So, what else do you want?" "I want to ask Santa tonight to keep us together always, you, me, and Uncle Maximiliano," the girl confessed. Maximiliano and Lisa exchanged glances. Tonight, all three of them would make one wish together. And then there was a crack, a noise. The 1.5-meter tall beauty of a Christmas tree fell to the floor with a crash. Frightened Biscuit was perched at the top. Everyone froze. "I told you, we should have nailed it to the ceiling," Lisa exclaimed first. "Nails rusted," Maximiliano concluded. "Biscuit," Natalia exclaimed. "Look what you've done." The girl was on the verge of tears. Biscuit, understanding the mess he'd caused, scuttled under the couch. From there, he observed as people, conversing merrily, once again set up that shiny wonder. Naive. With the chime of the clock, everything was ready, the tree and the table. Sleepy Natalia took a sip of juice, made her secret wish, and promptly fell asleep in the armchair. Beside her, Biscuit dozed off. Maximiliano and Lisa looked at them and smiled. "What do you think? What feline wish did Biscuit make?" Maximiliano asked. "Probably the same as ours." And they happily laughed. It was the most wonderful New Year's in years for them. And after the holidays, Lisa and Maximiliano went to the registry office. The thing was, on New Year's night, he proposed to her, and she said yes. They set the wedding for a month later. Maximiliano insisted on a formal ceremony. Although Lisa wasn't sure, what would Maximiliano's mother say? "Darling, she'll be dissatisfied no matter what." "But that's her business," Maximiliano replied. "And this is our life. Tell me, don't you want a white dress, a veil, a restaurant?" "A white dress when my daughter is already 6 years old." Lisa sadly smiled. "But I do want all of that very much. I'm just a little scared. And don't worry, I'm with you and will always be by your side." When Sonora Morales found out that her son was marrying his housekeeper, she clutched her heart. "I always knew that street dog would mess with your head." She yelled at Maximiliano, who broke the news to her. "Son, come to your senses before it's too late." "Well, she's not the right match for you." "Mom, I'm already a grown man." "You didn't like my first wife either, nor Lisa." "Mom, when will you calm down?" "When you marry Marina." "That will never happen." Just like the first time, Sonora Morales didn't attend the wedding. But no one was particularly upset. On the contrary, the wedding was joyful and friendly. There weren't many guests, Maximiliano's colleagues, his friends. Just 15 people. On Lisa's side, there was no one, but the bride wasn't sad. Maximiliano's friends were her friends too. She particularly bonded with Alba, her husband's colleague. Alba had worked at the clinic with Maximiliano for several years and had known both him and Martina. "Maximiliano is really a good guy," she told Lisa. "He deserves to be happy. Look, dear, don't disappoint him." "I'll do my best," Lisa smiled in response. Natalia also enjoyed the wedding. That was the first time she called Maximiliano Dad. Yes, now they were a real family. Meanwhile, in her apartment, Sonora Morales was raging like thunder and lightning. "No, can you imagine? He completely disregards my opinion," she was saying on the phone to her friend Anna. "He's married again to some nobody. And she even has a child. What a horror." Her friend agreed. "Maximiliano doesn't know how to choose people at all. And the worst part is, he told me so arrogantly, I'll figure out my life on my own." He'll figure it out, yeah right. He'll work for peanuts at that stinky clinic his whole life and raise someone else's child. And this little hussy, I'm sure, will make him a cuckold. After all, she shamelessly gave birth without even knowing who the father is. I checked, there's no father listed on the girl's birth certificate. No moral values at all. Awful. Awful. Anna sympathized. And imagine how good-looking a couple Maximiliano and Marina would have made. Sonora Morales sobbed. Sometimes I even dream that they're together. Oh, my friend, I would have wanted that too. It hurts to see my daughter like this. She truly loves Maximiliano. She's loved him for so many years. And I suspect she came back because of him. Right, I'd bend over backwards, but I'll ruin this new marriage. Sonora Morales promised. We'll marry our children anyway. We will. Anna agreed. Several months passed. Lisa didn't want to depend on Maximiliano financially and was eager to work. But where? And luck was on her side. A position opened up in the reception of a veterinary clinic. Lisa quickly got the job there, and now the newlyweds didn't part during the day or in the evening. Lisa quickly adapted to her new role, and she enjoyed her work. She took pride in the fact that clinic visitors always wanted to see her husband. He was a good doctor. Soon, Lisa found her calling. She started a blog about animals, with Biscuit as the main character, of course. The blog featured advice from Maximiliano as a veterinarian. Soon, Lisa's blog became very popular, but of course, she didn't quit her job at the clinic. She also took care of her daughter, her husband, and was an excellent homemaker. As for Sonora Morales, she had never once visited their home. To be honest, even the couple didn't seek meetings with her. The only thing, Maximiliano would call her regularly to check on how she was doing. But one day, Sonora Morales showed up at their apartment door. It was a Sunday, and Maximiliano was on duty at the clinic. Hello, Sonora Morales, Lisa said hesitantly, seeing her mother-in-law. Come in, but Maximiliano isn't here. I know, Sonora Morales nodded. He called me yesterday and said he'd be at work today. I came to you, Lisa. It's time for us to talk. After all, we're not strangers to each other. Lisa nodded in response. There was some insincerity in Sonora Morales' words, but nothing more. Her mother-in-law smiled and brought a cake. Shall we have coffee, dear? Sonora Morales smiled. Let's chat. Yes, of course, Lisa hurriedly agreed and went to the kitchen to put on the kettle. From the room, Natalia appeared, followed by Biscuit. Oh, you're actually quite grown, girl. Sonora Morales beamed and handed the girl a stuffed bunny. Thank you, the girl said, looking surprised at the woman. And who are you? Me? She stammered, her face turning red, but she quickly composed herself. You can call me Sonora Morales. Sonora Morales, do you like cats? Natalia asked her. Look, here's my cat. The woman glanced at the cat. It also looked unfriendly at the guest. It seemed to remember that broom. It hissed and hid in the room. Maybe it's afraid of strangers, Sonora Morales smirked. No, you didn't answer. Do you like them? Natalia asked persistently. Of course, dear, Sonora Morales beamed again. Why are you wearing shoes inside? Natalia frowned. You're supposed to take them off at home. The little girl pulled out pink slippers. Sonora Morales chuckled again, but she restrained herself. Well, she came here not to argue. The woman took off her shoes, put on the slippers. Lisa appeared from the kitchen and invited her to have coffee. She had already poured coffee into beautiful cups from a nice set, cut a cake, and also put out her homemade pie and some fruit. I don't want any, Natalia said and headed to her room. She didn't like this aunt at all. She hadn't properly introduced herself, and Biscuit hissed at her. We'll save the most delicious piece of cake with the biggest roses for you, Sonora Morales said peaceably to her and looked at Lisa. You have a lovely girl. Lisa thanked her and invited her to the table. Sonora Morales sat down, then suddenly remembered. I left my phone in my bag. Lisa, could you please bring my bag from the hallway? I'm waiting for an important call. Lisa nodded and went to the hallway. The bag was on a table near the mirror, and from the mirror, you could see the kitchen perfectly. Lisa briefly glanced at her reflection and froze for a moment. Her mother-in-law poured something from a small vial into her cup, then quickly hid it in her pocket. Lisa went back, unsure of what to do. Should she say she saw? Should she kick Sonora Morales out? Or maybe it wasn't that bad. Surely she wouldn't poison her son's wife. But Lisa had no intention of drinking that concoction. Sonora Morales, she said, handing over the bag. Did your heel break? What heel? Sonora Morales looked surprised. I thought one of the heels on your shoes looked strangely turned. I noticed it when I took the bag. That can't be, the woman exclaimed, her expression even changing. They were designer shoes, and she hadn't even realized there was an issue with the heel. Her mother-in-law burst into the hallway, and at the same time, Lisa switched the cups. Oh, honey, it's all fine. Sonora Morales returned with a smirk. The heel is meant to be that way. Very comfortable, by the way. Let's have coffee. She took a sip first, then drank from the cup, and Lisa tried the cake. It was very tasty indeed. Nothing happened. Lisa decided there was probably nothing harmful in the tea. Both of them finished their cups. Lisa poured some more, and suddenly Sonora Morales reddened, grabbed her throat, and started choking. In the first second, Lisa froze in horror. What's happening? Oh my God, it's coffee. She rushed to Sonora Morales, who slumped onto the table, hardly breathing. Luckily, the ambulance arrived quickly. It's poisoning, the doctor determined without a doubt. I'm calling the police. Lisa nodded in agreement. Let the police deal with it now. It turned out that the vial contained a very potent poison. The police quickly determined that Sonora Morales had poured it into the cup. Only her fingerprints were on the vial. When Sonora Morales regained consciousness, specialists began working with her. Everyone concluded that she had done it intentionally right in front of her daughter-in-law. In the first few minutes, the woman couldn't make sense of it all. Why was she in the hospital? What were they making up? She loved life and was ready to live until she was 100. But when the investigator explained everything to her, she paused and muttered that, yes, she had thought about leaving this world for good. She hadn't told anyone the truth because the truth was scarier than it seemed. Lisa told Maximiliano everything, and he was shocked. So, his own mother wanted to get rid of his wife? But how could he tell the police about this? Especially when Lisa, indirectly, was also at fault. She saw his mother pouring something into the coffee and didn't stop her, she just swapped the cups. What should he do? How should he proceed? And he decided to have a conversation with his mother. He went to the hospital to see her. Sonora Morales had already regained consciousness and was strolling in the hospital park, thinking about what had happened. The doctors had said that help arrived quickly, otherwise. She shuddered in horror, closing her eyes, imagining that she might not breathe this air anymore, not see the sky, not hear the birds singing. She sat down on a bench when she saw Maximiliano. My dear boy, you've come, she exclaimed joyfully. And here I am, you see, I've fallen ill. Mom, I know what you wanted to do with Lisa, Maximiliano said directly. Lisa saw you pouring something into her coffee, so she switched the cups. Oh, so that's it? Sonora Morales gasped, paused, and then burst into tears. Sonny, I didn't mean to, it was a mistake. A mistake? Yes, I didn't mean to. It's nothing serious. Maximiliano, listen to me, and then do what you think is necessary. And Sonora Morales told him the whole story. All this time, she couldn't reconcile herself to the fact that her son was living with Lisa, and everything was going well for them, while her friend's daughter was alone. For many years, Sonora Morales had dreamt that Marina would become her daughter-in-law. But most importantly, Marina was also worried that Maximiliano wasn't paying attention to her. They once had a conversation with Sonora Morales, and she had mentioned that if Lisa were to two-time, Maximiliano would definitely leave her. And I have a solution, Marina said mysteriously. What solution? I don't know the exact composition, but its effect is this: when a person takes it, their libido increases 100-fold. Well, you understand what I mean. If we were to give some of this drink to your Lisa, she would be chasing after the first person she sees in half an hour. And we could film it all with a camera. Well, fine. Is it really possible? Sonora Morales couldn't believe it. Then she pondered, the drops, maybe I can add them to the drink, but what next? She won't just run out onto the street, will she? That's exactly what she'll do, Marina smirked. It's a proven method. I'll have one old mate wait near the entrance. You don't stay for long, just make sure she drinks the coffee and leave. As soon as this Lisa rushes out, he'll pull her into his car, and we'll capture it all on a phone and send it to Maximiliano. Sonora Morales believed this nonsense. Marina was speaking very persuasively. And then it was all about logistics. She found out when Maximiliano was at work, when Lisa was at home, and pretended to reconcile with her supposed future daughter-in-law. She followed Marina's instructions, but she didn't consider that there was a mirror in the kitchen that could reflect the living room. This saved her. Sonny, I never meant any harm to Lisa. Sonora Morales sobbed. Please believe me. Maximiliano was completely bewildered. Marina? The same Marina he played with in the sandbox as a child? It just didn't make sense. Was she really so in love with him that she was willing to do this? All right, Mom, don't worry. Everything will work out, he said with a sigh. The most important thing is that everyone is alive. What are you going to do now? Sonora Morales asked fearfully. I don't know yet, but we can't just leave it like this. Oh, Marina. I trusted her so much. She seemed like such a nice girl to me. Haven't you figured it out yet? Maximiliano asked angrily. Your nice girl almost sent you to the other side. Yes, I figured it out. That's why I'm quiet, pretending to cooperate with the police. I'm so blame, my dear. Before you, before Lisa. She loves you, and you love her. And I. Oh, how ashamed I am. It was clear that the woman was genuinely regretful for her actions. Maximiliano hugged his mother and even gave her a peck on the cheek. Sonora Morales burst into tears. Her son loved her, and she had acted so horribly. Maximiliano left the hospital and went straight to the police station. This situation couldn't be kept quiet anymore. Now they should handle it. Marina had been in a bad mood since morning. Everything went completely wrong. The old fool messed everything up. She had been at the entrance that day, wanting to make sure everything went smoothly, but at first, the old lady took a long time to come out, and then the ambulance arrived. Marina had been glad initially. It worked. But when she saw Sonora Morales on a stretcher, she panicked. No, she couldn't trust anyone with anything. Marina quickly prepared her documents. She had a flight tonight. She would leave this place far behind, and that was it. Let Maximiliano live with whomever he wanted. Marina and Maximiliano had known each other since childhood. They went to the same school. In the later years of school, Marina fell desperately in love with Maximiliano, but he still saw her as just a friend. However, Marina tried her best to make herself appealing to him. She pursued the best education to show him how intelligent and attractive she was. Not a beauty, but men were still captivated by her. Just not Maximiliano. When he married his Martina, Marina couldn't get over it for a week. What a scoundrel. He even picked someone with a name similar to mine. When Martina died, Marina was ecstatic Maximiliano would be hers eventually. But he rejected her again. To forget it all, she left the country, worked like crazy, climbed the career ladder. She became a kind of iron lady. But her heart still skipped a beat at the thought of Maximiliano. How was he doing? Her mother said he was living alone, working at some shabby clinic. Dr. Doolittle. Marina smirked. Well, what a stupid way to spend his life. No worries, she would still get what she wanted. He would be with her. And then she would find him a suitable profession. She dreamt of spending New Year's with him, flying back home on wings of anticipation that they would soon be together. Her mother assured her that Sonora Morales would definitely invite him for the holidays. And from there, Marina wouldn't let her escape. And again, it didn't work out. He supposedly wanted to sleep on New Year's Eve. Tired. Wasn't she tired? But he was lying. Even back then, he was involved with that mess of a girl. Marina later learned all about her, about that Lisa. They expelled her from college, she got pregnant from someone unclear, lived in some basement, swept the streets, cleaned the floors, a total mess, in other words. And Maximiliano picked her up and even married her. He even took on her child, what an idiot. Every day, she harbored a plan for revenge, and one day she realized how to get rid of her rival. It didn't matter anymore if Maximiliano would be with her or not, she just had to punish that silly Lisa. And Maximiliano, he had no right to love anyone but her. Marina acquired this poison from a market abroad. The vendor explained to her that it was an excellent remedy for cockroaches, but it should never be consumed by humans, a 98% chance of certain death. But that was what Marina needed. Later, that foolish old woman believed in a potion that turned a person into an animal. Everything seemed fine, just a little waiting left. But they took the old lady away, and she miraculously survived. Those unfortunate 2%. Sonora Morales was lucky. Now Marina was worried that the old lady might figure things out. She couldn't be that foolish. And if she spoke up? If Lisa had crossed over, it would have been simpler. Marina had prepared well. Everyone knew that the mother-in-law detested her future daughter-in-law, and Marina happily told everyone about it. A couple of times, seemingly by accident, she dropped hints that Sonora Morales should do something about Lisa. But still, it was all precarious. In short, until that old fool regained her senses, Marina needed to fly away to a place where she would be out of reach for sure. In the evening at the airport, Marina was detained. She feigned complete indignation. For what? Why? She continued to argue in the office. When the charges were brought against her, she quieted down a bit. Then she smirked. And you won't prove anything. Sonora Morales is making false accusations against me. Seems like she wanted to send her daughter-in-law to the other world herself, but failed. What's that got to do with me? Is there any video or photo evidence of me saying what should be done to Lisa? No? There you go. It's all just slander. The investigator himself understood that a good lawyer would acquit Marina, and then Sonora Morales would end up being the scapegoat. But that's not right. He felt that this bold, self-assured girl was guilty. But help came from an unexpected source. A man, a mechanic from one of the city's car repair shops, came to the police station with a confession. He admitted that several years ago he deliberately sabotaged a car engine. It was an old Synchro that Martina, Maximiliano's first wife, used to drive. Marina had ordered the accident back then, and there was even a video recording of his conversation with Marina where they discussed the details of the scheme. Under the weight of irrefutable evidence, Marina confessed. "Idiot!" She yelled in anger. "What, wasn't what I paid you enough? Now you'll go to jail yourself." "I'd rather go to jail," the mechanic answered. "I can't live with this burden anymore." Good Lord! What a fool you are. What fools you all are here. You should all be exterminated like cockroaches. And then she stumbled, realizing that she almost revealed her second secret. But the investigator was experienced. He already knew what liquid was in that vial and where one could acquire such a thing. Then he requested data from the travel agency and found out that Marina had recently been to that very country. Give him the opportunity and money for a business trip, he would even find the vendor. The investigator was persistent. But that wasn't necessary, he managed to build the case without it. And Marina started giving confession statements. Yes, she sent Maximiliano's first wife to the other world. Yes, she tried to do the same to Lisa. When the whole truth came to light, Sonora Morales was the most shocked of all. For so many years, she had no idea what kind of enemy was lurking nearby. It's unclear what else Marina would have done if Maximiliano had indeed become her husband and at some point had become displeasing to her. Maximiliano was also completely bewildered. Why didn't the law enforcement agencies establish that the accident had been staged back then? They had told him that Martina simply lost control and skidded off the wet road. And she died because she wasn't wearing a seatbelt. Yes, maybe seatbelts would have saved her. But why wasn't the car thoroughly examined back then? Did they not want to? And after all these revelations, Lisa suddenly realized how strong her guardian angel was. 2 weeks later, Sonora Morales was discharged. Her son and daughter-in-law came to pick her up from the hospital, and Natalia was with them. My apologies for the confusion. Here is the translation of the text without using quotation marks for direct speech, as requested. My dear ones. The elderly woman's eyes moistened. Thank you. Can you forgive me? Mom, you didn't know anything yourself, Maximiliano replied to her. Let's forget everything and start anew. Lisa, why are you silent? Sonora Morales looked anxiously at her daughter-in-law. You won't forgive me, will you? It's you who should forgive me, Lisa sighed. I should have poured that nasty stuff down the drain, but I put it in front of you. And you did the right thing. Unexpectedly responded Sonora Morales. Otherwise, that Marina would have come up with something else. And Anna. She raised a viper. Well, okay, they're all punished now, said Maximiliano. Marina is in jail, and her mother. I even feel sorry for her, she didn't know what her daughter was up to. Well, that's not a fact yet. Sonora Morales shook her head. I'll talk to her when I get home. It won't work, Maximiliano smiled. Lisa and I were at your place, watering the plants. So, Aunt Anna was packing up, she sold her apartment and went somewhere. She just gave me a spiteful look and spat after me. What a witch. Well, she's out of our lives now. Sonora Morales waved her hand. She looked at Natalia, who had been silent all this time, and clung to her mother. Natalia, can I hug you? The girl cautiously approached her. You still didn't answer me then. Who are you? Mom and Dad talk about you, but I don't understand. The girl asked. I'm your grandmother. Sonora Morales answered tearfully and hugged the girl. Maximiliano and Lisa looked at each other and smiled. The ice had broken. It should be noted that Sonora Morales had been thinking a lot about everything while in the hospital. About Lisa, about Natalia, too. And in the end, she realized only with them did her son finally find happiness. What more did she need as a mother? It was enough to stop searching for gold and hoping for a wealthy daughter-in-law. After all, everyone starts from something. And perhaps it's Lisa who will help Maximiliano succeed in his career. She seems to be a very wise girl. A year passed after all these events. Lisa went on maternity leave. She and Maximiliano were expecting a son. Natalia was already going to school. During the day, Lisa had enough free time and worked on her blog, which was quite popular among subscribers. Biscuit delighted them with his pranks, and followers were amazed. What a clever cat, if only he didn't speak human. And what a handsome one. Probably from a good breed? But Lisa honestly said, Biscuit is a mixed breed, a former stray cat. And she added to herself, just like me. But everything has passed, and now only joyful days lie ahead. And once she received a strange message, it was from a man. He was now living in England, but a few years ago, he had passed through that town. His name was Eugenio. He asked for Lisa's phone number. He had something important to tell her. At first, Lisa didn't attach much importance to it. But curiosity got the better of her, and she sent him her number. Eugenio called later that day. Thank you for agreeing to talk to me. I've been feeling off for a week. I saw your biscuit and lost my peace. What does my cat have to do with it? Lisa was surprised. You see, there's a story here. And Eugenio told her that 3 years ago, he was in their region. He had come to bury his mother. After the funeral and settling all the matters, he was planning to go to the capital where he lived. But he decided to spend the night in his parents' house. And then, during the night, a disaster struck. A short circuit caused a fire. Eugenio didn't feel any smoke or fumes initially. He was asleep. He woke up when a huge gray cat was sitting on his chest and howling loudly. Grabbing his documents and belongings, Eugenio broke the window and jumped outside. The cat followed him. So they sat together on a bench at the neighbor's while the firefighters were putting out the fire. The neighbor, seeing the cat, smiled. "Our Tomas is back." "Tomas?" Eugenio was surprised. "Yes, the cat. Your mother found him on the road when he was just a tiny kitten. Some passing car threw him out and drove away, but she nursed him. Look what a big cat he's become. She spoiled him. He used to take a bath twice a week. She bought him all sorts of cat toys. When Dolores got sick, Tomas never left her side. He would lie on the painful spot, and her pain would ease. And when she died, he left the house. You came for the funeral, saw him, didn't you?" "No?" "There you go. The cat was grieving somewhere. But as you can see, he's back. He actually saved me," Eugenio admitted and told how it happened. "I just don't understand how he got into the house. Everything was closed at night. The air vent was open." "Oh, Eugenio, you've become urbanized. You've forgotten all about rural life. What are you going to do with Tomas now?" "I can't take him. I already have 3 of my own cats." "Should we take him into the barn?" "No need for the barn," Eugenio confidently replied. "I'll take him with me. He saved my life. My mother loved him, and I'm not going to abandon him. My daughter loves playing with animals. She'll take care of him." Bought in the district center, Eugenio took the carrier, and they went by train to the city. Later, they were supposed to fly by plane to the capital. Until the plane departure, there were over 10 hours, so Eugenio settled in the lounge. Tomas behaved well, a very well-mannered cat. The man observed him closely. Interestingly, on his gray belly, there was a decent patch of white fur in the shape of a heart. This amazed Eugenio. Nature had outdone itself. Then he needed to go to the store. A cleaning lady entered his room. Eugenio doesn't know what happened there, but he suspects that the cleaning lady simply threw the cat outside. There was a lot of fur from him. In general, Eugenio ran around, called for Tomas, but he seemed to have vanished into thin air. So he flew off alone. He was worried. It seemed like he knew the cat for such a short time, but he had grown attached. The cat was smart and had saved him, but he hadn't saved the cat. With time, he somewhat forgot about this story, especially since he had a lot of work. Then he was offered a job abroad, and he flew to London with his family. But recently, he came across Lisa's blog. Her Biscuit looked so much like his Tomas. But how many gray cats are there in the world? And then he noticed the belly. Biscuit was sprawled out like a baron, napping on the windowsill. And there, on his belly, was that same white heart. It was Tomas. Eugenio was overjoyed that the cat was alive. What a relief. "But could you be mistaken?" Lisa cautiously replied. "Yes, our Biscuit has that little patch. We've always been amazed at how nature colored it. But coincidences happen. Although, yes, it does match the timing. We found Biscuit barely alive in early November. It was clear he had been outside for several months. But he's used to everything now. But, I'm sorry, how does this change anything?" "Yes, nothing really," Eugenio reassured her. "Just, sometimes nostalgia hits. And there's guilt. The cat saved me, but I didn't save him. Don't worry, Biscuit has long forgotten all the troubles he went through. He's a perfectly happy cat. I'm planning to come back to my hometown soon, visit my mother's grave, arrange everything there. Can I come to you? I just want to understand if it's Tomas or not." "It's Biscuit." "Yes, I understand, but it's just a habit. Lisa wasn't very eager for this meeting, but she agreed nonetheless. Well, let him look, why not? Max also didn't understand why an unfamiliar guy would come to see their cat. And Natalia burst into tears. They were going to take away her Biscuit. We won't give him away to anyone, reassured her parents. And so, the meeting took place. Eugenio was around 50 years old, confident, successful. Clearly, his life had turned out well. The man came to Lisa and Max's house not empty-handed, sweets, flowers, and cat food. "Hi, Tomas," Eugenio said, looking at the cat. "Do you remember me?" The cat froze for a moment, unblinking. Then, he twitched his ears upon hearing the familiar name and approached Eugenio, purring and rubbing against his legs. "Recognized me?" Eugenio laughed. "Recognized?" He lifted him up, not caring at all that cat fur was sticking to his expensive jacket, and gently stroked him. The cat looked into his eyes and purred like a tractor. "He's not Tomas, he's Biscuit," Natalia said, barely holding back tears. "This is our cat, we rescued him." "Of course, he's your Biscuit." Eugenio smiled. "My mother loved this cat very much, and I owe him. Don't worry, I'm not claiming him, and he won't go anywhere from you, that's clear. I just wanted to make sure it's him." They chatted for a while, and Max and Lisa liked their new acquaintance. They even shared their plans for the future with him. They really wanted to start their own small veterinary clinic. They wanted to begin with a single office, but it hadn't worked out so far. "Yes, it's all expensive," Eugenio agreed. "But I believe you'll make it." Only Natalia watched the guest warily, and when Eugenio was about to leave, she finally sighed in relief. "Well, Tomas Biscuit, I see that everything is fine with you." Eugenio smiled. "I wish you a happy cat life. And you all, Lisa, Max, Natalia, to be happy." And he left. Sometimes it happens, someone leaves, and you still smile, remembering them, because it was nice to communicate with them. Eugenio was like that. And a month later, a significant amount of money was deposited into Lisa's account with a message to make a dream come true. Max and Lisa immediately understood that it was sent by Eugenio. It felt awkward. For what? For the cat? Apparently, yes. They called him, even scolded Eugenio, but he told them, "I couldn't do otherwise. You have no idea how much I blamed myself for not keeping my mom's beloved cat. I feel guilty towards her. I was always at work, rarely came back. I barely even made it to the funeral. So, it turned out that I lost both my mother and her beloved pet. And you saved him." Eugenio was an amazing person, but as it's known, the wealthy have their quirks. Soon, Lisa gave birth to a son, and the whole family welcomed her home from the maternity ward: Natalia, Max, Sonora Morales. It's worth mentioning that the mother-in-law had completely transformed lately, both in appearance and internally. She still dressed stylishly, but her makeup was more modest, and she changed her hair color to brown. Suddenly, she became softer, kinder. All the outward arrogance had disappeared, and her character had changed. Now she was the most caring grandmother. She completely forgot that Natalia wasn't her biological granddaughter and was ready to spend the whole day with her. They would cook something together, try sewing toys, or take walks outside with Biscuit. And so, Sonora Morales became a grandmother. "How happy I am now," she said to her son, anticipating the arrival of her daughter-in-law with the baby. Maximiliano just smiled. He was just as happy. "What should we name the little brother?" Natalia asked, impatiently glancing at the hospital entrance. "What do you want to name him?" Sonora Morales asked. "I want to name him Miguel." "Why Miguel?" Maximiliano was surprised. "I think Miguel Navarro sounds beautiful," Natalia smiled. "You're my good girl." Maximiliano smiled and picked up the baby girl in his arms. Indeed, Mikhail Navarro sounded beautiful. And Natalia Navarro didn't sound bad either. It was time to officially adopt Natalia so that there would be no questions from anyone. Yes, he had a daughter, and now a son had arrived. Lisa emerged from the building, holding a little bundle of blue. Maximiliano, Natalia, and Sonora Morales rushed towards her. "My dear little girl," said Sonora Morales. "Congratulations." And she kissed her daughter-in-law. Yes, she was her daughter. All misunderstandings were in the past. While Lisa was fully occupied with little Miguel in the first few months, Maximiliano began to work on starting his own business. It turned out that it wasn't that simple. There was a lot of bureaucracy with the paperwork. And that's where the acquaintances of Eugenio came to his aid. After all, Eugenio had instructed them to call him when Maximiliano and Lisa would start their own business. He had extensive experience, good connections, and thanks to all of this, Maximiliano soon opened a small private veterinary clinic named Tomas. Can you guess who was depicted at the entrance? Of course, Biscuit. Content and satisfied with life. And everything in Lisa's and her family's life went smoothly, as if all the troubles and misfortunes from the past had never happened. It seemed like everything was behind them, but one day Lisa received a letter from the correctional facility. It was from that same Marina. Lisa thought that perhaps she had come to her senses and was asking for forgiveness. But no. Every line of her letter was filled with venom. "I hate you, Marina wrote. "You are nobody and should be called nobody. Do you really think Maximiliano will be happy with you? Don't even hope for it. I'll serve my time, and when I get out, you'll answer for everything." Reading this, Lisa was initially upset, but then she burned the letter. Away with all the negativity. Let Marina choke on her own poison. She wouldn't be able to do anything to her and her family anymore. She was sentenced to 12 years, the maximum. And even if she got out on parole in a few years, she probably wouldn't be able to do anything to Lisa and her family. What would she become when she gets out? Clearly not flourishing and full of strength. She had ruined her own life. She now had no money or influence. All her acquaintances had turned away from her, and it was her own doing. "What's that smell?" Maximiliano was surprised, peeking into the kitchen. "Did something burn?" "Yes, something burned. All our sorrows and troubles." "I don't understand." "Oh, I'm just kidding." Lisa laughed. The parchment in oven got burnt. She decided that Maximiliano didn't need to know about that letter, and she would forget about it and forgive Marina. Because bitter resentments destroy, first and foremost, the person who harbors them. And if you look at the world with a smile, the world will smile back at you. If you lend a helping hand to those less fortunate in this life, a helping hand will be extended to you in return when times are tough.
If you're enjoying it as well, leave a like and subscribe to the channel.